Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales and boundless imagination come to life. Enjoy the story and don't forget to subscribe. The scorching sun beat down mercilessly on Ronald's weathered face as he trudged through the barren wasteland that was once a thriving metropolis. Sweat trickled down his brow, mingling with the grime and dust that caked his skin. His eyes, narrowed against the relentless glare, scanned the horizon for any sign of life or resources. The desolate landscape stretched endlessly before him, a stark reminder of humanity's folly. Twisted metal and crumbling concrete, remnants of skyscrapers that once pierced the sky, now lay scattered across the desert floor like discarded toys. The wind howled through the ruins, carrying with it the acrid scent of decay and despair. Ronald paused, wiping his forehead with the back of his hand. His canteen hung empty at his side, a cruel joke in this unforgiving terrain. He'd been walking for hours, searching for anything that might help his struggling community survive another day. "Damn it all," he muttered, kicking at a rusted piece of metal. "There's nothing left out here but death." His words died in his throat as the sky suddenly erupted in a blinding flash of light. Ronald stumbled backward, shielding his eyes against the unexpected brilliance. As the glare subsided, he gaped in awe at the sight before him. A massive ship, unlike anything he'd ever seen, descended from the heavens. Its sleek, otherworldly design defied human engineering, its surface shimmering with an ethereal glow. Ronald's heart raced, a mixture of fear and excitement coursing through his veins as the ship touched down, sending up clouds of dust and debris. A hatch opened with a soft hiss. Ronald tensed, his hand instinctively reaching for the makeshift weapon at his hip. But nothing could have prepared him for what emerged. A figure stepped out, graceful and lithe, its movements fluid and mesmerizing. As the dust settled, Ronald's breath caught in his throat. Before him stood the most beautiful creature he'd ever laid eyes on. She, for despite her alien nature, she was unmistakably female, had skin of the deepest, most vibrant blue. It shimmered in the fading sunlight, as if countless stars were trapped just beneath the surface. Her form was perfection incarnate, curves and angles blending in a harmony that seemed both familiar and utterly foreign. But it was her eyes that truly captivated Ronald. They were pools of liquid silver, ancient and wise, yet sparkling with curiosity in something else, something that made his pulse quicken. Their gazes locked, and in that moment, Ronald felt a jolt of electricity course through him. It was as if some cosmic force had suddenly aligned, connecting them across the vast gulf of space and species. The alien beauty's lips curved into a smile that was both inviting and enigmatic. When she spoke, her voice was like music, a melody that seemed to bypass his ears and resonate directly within his soul. "We come in peace," she said, her words perfectly formed despite their alien origin, with an offer of salvation. Ronald blinked, trying to shake off the hypnotic effect of her presence. He swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry. Who are you?" he managed to croak out. Her smile widened, revealing teeth that were just a shade too perfect to be human. "I am Amelia," she replied, taking a step towards him, "and you are Ronald." He answered automatically, then cursed himself for his lack of caution. "What do you mean, salvation? What are you doing here?" Amelia's expression grew serious, though her eyes continued to dance with that mysterious light. "We are the rebellion," she explained, gesturing towards the ship behind her. "We have traveled across the stars to offer your people a chance at survival, at rebirth." Ronald's skepticism fought against the strange pull he felt towards this alien woman. "And why would you do that? What's in it for you?" A soft laugh escaped Amelia's lips, the sound sending an involuntary shiver down Ronald's spine. "Always so suspicious, you humans," she teased. "Can't we simply wish to help a struggling species?" "In my experience," Ronald retorted, finding his footing in the verbal sparring, "nothing comes without a price. Especially not from the stars." Amelia's gaze softened, a hint of admiration creeping into her expression. You're not wrong, she conceded, but perhaps the price is one you'll find worth paying. Gather your people, Ronald. Let us present our offer to all who remain. Despite his better judgment, Ronald found himself nodding. Fine, he agreed, unable to tear his eyes away from her, but no tricks. We may be down, but we're not out. I wouldn't dream of it, Amelia purred, her tone laced with something that made Ronald's cheeks flush. Lead the way, brave survivor. Show me what's left of your world. As they set off towards the hidden enclave where the last remnants of humanity clung to existence, Ronald couldn't shake the feeling that his life, and the fate of his entire species, was about to change forever. The journey back to the underground bunker that housed the survivors was tense and filled with furtive glances. Ronald led the way, hyper-aware of Amelia's presence behind him. Every so often, he'd steal a look over his shoulder, only to find her silver eyes already fixed upon him, a knowing smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Finally, Ronald broke the silence, his voice gruff. You've been watching us for a while, I take it. Amelia's melodic laugh danced on the air. Is it that obvious? Yes. We've been observing Earth for some time now. Your species is fascinating. Ronald snorted. Fascinating? We've nearly wiped ourselves out. Not exactly our finest moment. On the contrary, Amelia countered, easily keeping pace with him despite the treacherous terrain. It's in moments of crisis that a species truly reveals its nature. Your resilience is remarkable. Resilience won't mean much if we can't find a way to fix this mess, Ronald muttered, gesturing at the desolate landscape around them. Amelia's voice softened. That's why we're here, Ronald. To offer you a chance at redemption. And so much more. Something in her tone made Ronald's skin prickle with anticipation. He was about to press her for details when they crested a small rise, revealing the hidden entrance to the bunker. We're here, he announced, turning to face her fully. Now, before we go in, I need to know, will your people try anything? Because if this is some kind of invasion. Amelia cut him off with a gentle touch to his arm. The contact sent a jolt through Ronald's body, and he found himself momentarily lost in the depths of her silver eyes. We mean you no harm, she assured him, her voice low and intense. What we offer is a gift, freely given. Whether you choose to accept it, that will be up to you and your people. Ronald nodded, trying to ignore the warmth spreading from where her hand still rested on his arm. All right, he said, his voice rougher than he intended. Let's do this. He led her to the concealed entrance, tapping out a complex series of knocks. After a moment, the door swung open, revealing a dimly lit passageway. As they descended into the heart of the bunker, whispers and gasps followed in their wake. The survivors, pale and malnourished, gaped at Amelia's otherworldly beauty. Ronald felt a strange mix of pride and possessiveness, which he quickly tried to squash. They entered the main chamber, a cavernous space that had once been a Cold War-era command center. Now, it served as the last bastion of human civilization. Makeshift beds lined the walls, and the air was thick with the smell of unwashed bodies and fear. Everyone, Ronald called out, his voice echoing in the sudden silence. I've brought a visitor. She says she has an offer for us, one that could change everything. All eyes turned to Amelia, who stepped forward with graceful confidence. People of Earth, she began, her melodious voice filling the chamber, I am Amelia, representative of the rebellion race. We have come from across the stars to offer you salvation. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Ronald watched as hope and suspicion warred on the faces of his fellow survivors. What kind of salvation? A grizzled old man called out. You going to wave a magic wand and fix our planet? Amelia's laugh was like crystal chimes. Not quite. Though our methods might seem like magic to you. We propose a more intimate solution. The way she said intimate sent a shiver down Ronald's spine. He found himself leaning in, eager to hear more. Our race has mastered the art of genetic manipulation, Amelia continued. We can reshape DNA, blend traits from different species to create something new, something better. The implications of her words slowly dawned on the assembled humans. Ronald's mind raced, trying to process what she was suggesting. You want to change us? A young woman asked, her voice trembling. Make us, like you. Amelia's smile was both reassuring and enigmatic. Not exactly like us, no. But we can help you evolve, adapt to this new world you find yourselves in. We can make you stronger, more resilient, able to thrive where now you merely survive. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices. Some cried out in fear, others in excitement. Ronald raised his hands, calling for quiet once more. And what's the catch? He asked, fixing Amelia with a hard stare. What do you get out of this arrangement? Amelia met his gaze unflinchingly. A chance to see our genetic legacy continue, to blend our strengths with yours, creating a new species that combines the best of both our worlds. Ronald's eyes narrowed. So, we'd be what? Some kind of experiment? You're lab rats. Far from it, Amelia countered, taking a step closer to him. The air between them seemed to crackle with attention. You would be our partners, our equals. Perhaps even more. The way she looked at him as she said those last words made Ronald's heart race. He struggled to maintain his composure. You're asking us to give up our very essence, he argued, though his resolve was wavering, to become something other than human. Amelia's eyes flashed with a mix of challenge and something deeper, more primal. We're offering you evolution, Ronald. A chance at life, real life, not this half-existence you're clinging to. Their faces were inches apart now, the rest of the room fading away. Ronald could feel the heat radiating from her alien skin, smell a scent that was both familiar and exotic. And if we refuse? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Amelia's lips curved into a smile that was equal parts invitation and warning. Then you consign yourselves to a slow death on a dying world. Is that truly what you want, Ronald? To be the last guardian of a doomed species? The weight of the decision pressed down on Ronald like a physical force. He looked around at the gaunt faces of his fellow survivors, saw the mix of fear and desperate hope in their eyes. Finally, he turned back to Amelia. We'll need time to discuss this, he said, trying to ignore the way his pulse quickened under her gaze. It's not a decision to be made lightly. Amelia nodded, her expression softening. Of course. We understand the magnitude of what we're proposing. Take the time you need. But know this, Ronald, she leaned in close, her breath hot against his ear, the future of your entire species hangs in the balance. Choose wisely. As she pulled away, her lips brushed against his cheek, sending a jolt of electricity through his body. Ronald staggered back, his mind reeling from the contact. We'll await your decision, Amelia announced to the room at large, though her eyes never left Ronald's. Consider carefully what we offer. It may be your only chance at a true future. With that, she turned and glided out of the chamber, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. As the door closed behind her, the room erupted into chaos. Ronald stood rooted to the spot, his cheek still tingling where Amelia's lips had touched him. He knew that whatever decision they made, nothing would ever be the same again. The fate of humanity now rested in their hands, and in the mysterious, alluring promise of the stars. Voices raised in fear, hope, and confusion bounced off the concrete walls. Ronald stood rooted to the spot, his mind reeling from the alien's touch and the weight of the decision before them. Silence, he roared, his voice cutting through the cacophony. The room fell quiet, all eyes turning to their leader. Ronald took a deep breath, steadying himself. I know we're all overwhelmed, but we need to approach this rationally. An older woman, Thomas, stepped forward, her weathered face etched with concern. Ronald, you can't seriously be considering this. It's madness. They want to change us, make us not human. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Ronald held up his hand, calling for quiet once more. I understand your fears, but look around you. We're dying here. Our children have no future. If there's even a chance this could save us. At what cost? A young man shouted. Our humanity. Our souls. Ronald's jaw clenched. And what good are our souls if we're all dead? We need to at least hear them out, understand what this integration really means. The debate raged for hours. Ronald listened to every argument, weighing each perspective carefully. But as the night wore on, he found his thoughts continually drifting back to Amelia, her ethereal beauty, the electricity of her touch, the promise in her silver eyes. As dawn broke, Ronald made his decision. He would undergo the integration process himself as a test. If it proved safe and beneficial, the others could choose to follow. He emerged from the bunker alone, squinting against the harsh sunlight. Amelia was waiting, a knowing smile playing on her lips. You've made your choice, she said. It wasn't a question. Ronald nodded, his mouth suddenly dry. I'll do it. But just me for now. If it works, if it's safe, then the others can decide for themselves. Amelia's smile widened, revealing those two perfect teeth. Brave and selfless. Your people are fortunate to have such a leader. The air in the underground bunker hung thick with a mixture of apprehension and hushed whispers. Hours had passed since Ronald's announcement, and the community was still wrestling with the implications of his decision. In the dimly lit corners, small groups huddled together, their faces illuminated by flickering makeshift lamps, debating the merits and dangers of Amelia's offer. The bunker, once a symbol of safety and resilience, now felt like a pressure cooker, the weight of their collective fears threatening to explode at any moment. Thomas, one of the community's elders, sat alone in his small alcove, his brow furrowed in deep thought. He was a man of tradition, a staunch believer in the values that had guided humanity for generations. He had seen the world change, witnessed its descent into chaos, and clung fiercely to the principles that had helped them survive this far. The idea of willingly altering their DNA, of abandoning their humanity, was anathema to him. Madness, he muttered to himself, his voice raspy with age and exhaustion. Pure madness. A young woman approached his alcove hesitantly, her eyes filled with a mixture of respect and defiance. It was Martha, a close friend of Ronald, and one of the few people who dared to challenge Thomas's authority. Thomas, she said softly, you haven't slept in days. You need to rest. Thomas looked up at her, his eyes filled with a weariness that went beyond mere physical exhaustion. Rest? How can I rest when our very future is at stake? When our leader is about to throw away everything we hold dear? Martha sat down beside him, her expression earnest. Ronald is trying to save us, Thomas. He's doing what he thinks is best for the community. And what about what's best for humanity? Thomas retorted, his voice rising in anger. Are we just going to meekly surrender our identity to these aliens? They're offering us a chance to survive, Thomas, Martha pleaded. A chance to thrive in a world that's become uninhabitable. Can we afford to dismiss that so easily? Thomas shook his head, his eyes hardening. There are some things worth more than survival, Martha. Honor, integrity, tradition. Our humanity. But what good are those things if we're all dead? Martha countered, her voice laced with desperation. We're not thriving now, Thomas. We're barely surviving. We're scavenging for scraps, hiding in the dark, waiting for the end to come. Is that the legacy you want to leave behind? Thomas fell silent, his gaze fixed on the cold, damp floor. He knew that Martha spoke the truth. Their situation was dire, their prospects bleak. But the thought of embracing such radical change, of entrusting their fate to an alien race, filled him with dread. I don't trust them, he admitted finally, his voice barely audible. There's something, unsettling about that Amelia. Something she's not telling us. Martha sighed, placing a hand on Thomas's arm. I understand your concerns, but we can't let fear cloud our judgment. We need to consider all our options, weigh the risks and benefits, and make a decision that's best for everyone. And you think this integration is the best option? Thomas asked, his eyes searching hers. Martha hesitated for a moment before answering. I don't know, Thomas. But I'm willing to trust Ronald. I believe he has our best interests at heart. Thomas looked at her, his expression softening slightly. He had always admired Martha's courage and compassion. She was a bright light in their dark world, a beacon of hope for the younger generation. You're a good woman, Martha, he said, his voice filled with affection. Too good for this world. Martha smiled sadly. We all have to do what we can to make it better, Thomas. Even if it means taking risks. As Martha left his alcove, Thomas was left alone with his thoughts once more. The debate within the community continued to rage, but his own mind remained conflicted. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap, that Amelia's offer was too good to be true. But he also knew that they couldn't continue on their current path. Something had to change, or they were all doomed. Meanwhile, Ronald prepared for the integration process, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. He knew that he was taking a huge risk, potentially sacrificing his own humanity for the sake of his community. But he also knew that he couldn't stand by and watch them wither away, not when there was a chance, however slim, to save them. He met Amelia at the entrance to the bunker, her silver eyes gleaming in the dim light. She smiled at him, a smile that sent a shiver down his spine. Are you ready, Ronald? She asked, her voice soft and melodic. Ronald took a deep breath, steeling his resolve. As ready as I'll ever be. Amelia led him out of the bunker and towards her ship, the sleek, otherworldly vessel that represented both their salvation and their potential doom. As they walked, Ronald couldn't help but wonder what awaited him inside. What changes would he undergo? Would he still be the same person when it was all over? He glanced back at the bunker, at the faces of his fellow survivors peering out from the entrance. He saw Thomas standing there, his expression a mixture of concern and disapproval. Ronald offered him a small, reassuring smile, but Thomas simply shook his head sadly. As they reached the ship, Amelia paused, turning to face Ronald. There's no turning back now, she said, her eyes searching his. Once we begin, the transformation will be irreversible. Ronald nodded, his jaw clenched. I understand. Amelia's smile widened, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Then let us begin. With a gentle touch, she guided him inside the ship. As the hatch closed behind them, Ronald felt a sense of finality wash over him. He was leaving his old life behind, stepping into the unknown, with no guarantee of what awaited him on the other side. Inside the ship, Ronald was greeted by a dazzling display of technology. The walls were lined with glowing panels and intricate machinery, humming with a low, resonant energy. The air was clean and sterile, devoid of any familiar scents. Amelia led him to a large, circular chamber in the center of the ship. In the middle of the room stood a sleek, metallic pod, its surface shimmering with an iridescent glow. This is where the integration will take place, Amelia explained, gesturing towards the pod. Lie down inside, and prepare yourself for the transformation. Ronald hesitated for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest. He glanced at Amelia, searching for any sign of deception in her eyes. But all he saw was a genuine desire to help, a sincere belief in the potential of their combined species. With a deep breath, Ronald stepped towards the pod and climbed inside. As the lid closed over him, encasing him in darkness, he felt a surge of panic rise within him. He was trapped, helpless, at the mercy of these aliens and their strange technology. But then, he remembered the faces of his fellow survivors, their desperate hope for a better future. He closed his eyes, forcing himself to relax, and whispered a silent prayer. "Do what you must," he said. "Just save us." As the integration process began, Ronald felt a searing pain course through his body. It was as if every cell in his being was being torn apart and reassembled, his DNA rewritten, his very essence transformed. He screamed, but no sound escaped the confines of the pod. He thrashed and writhed, but his movements were restricted by the tight, metallic walls. The pain intensified, becoming unbearable. Ronald felt his mind slipping, his consciousness fading. He was losing himself, becoming something other. Just as he was about to succumb to the darkness, he heard Amelia's voice, soft and soothing, resonating within his mind. "Hold on, Ronald," she whispered. "You're almost there. You're becoming something beautiful, something extraordinary." Her words gave him strength, a renewed sense of purpose. He focused on her voice, clinging to it like a lifeline. Slowly, gradually, the pain began to subside. The searing heat gave way to a cool, tingling sensation. Ronald felt his body changing, adapting, evolving. Finally, the integration process came to an end. The pod hissed open, releasing him into the chamber. Ronald lay there for a moment, gasping for breath, his body trembling with exhaustion. He felt weak and disoriented, but also strangely, invigorated. He sat up slowly, his eyes adjusting to the light. He looked down at his hands, his fingers flexing and unflexing. They looked different. More refined, more elegant. He stood up, his legs feeling stronger, more resilient. He walked over to a mirror on the wall and gazed at his reflection. He barely recognized the person staring back at him. His skin was smoother, his features more defined. His eyes were brighter, filled with a newfound intensity. And his hair was now streaked with strands of silver, shimmering like moonlight. He touched his face, tracing the contours of his new features. He was still Ronald, but he was also something more. Something alien. Amelia approached him, her eyes filled with admiration. "Welcome back, Ronald," she said, her voice filled with warmth. "Or should I say, welcome to the future." Ronald looked at her, his heart pounding in his chest. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew that he was ready to face it, whatever it might bring. He had undergone the integration process, sacrificed his old self for the sake of his community. Now, it was time to see if his sacrifice had been worth it. He was no longer just Ronald. He was something new. And he was ready to face whatever came next.